Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have ASTRO AQUA Kitty, a new shoot 'em up RPG fusion starring cats. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Tiki Pod, ASTRO AQUA Kitty released in early April 2021 for the PC and the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. On April 15th, it's going to release for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation Vita, making it one of the last titles that will be released for the PlayStation Vita. Now, this title is a follow-up to 2014's AQUA Kitty, which I happen to view as a really excellent Defender-type shoot-'em-up. This game has similar mechanics. Your movement and some of the shooting mechanics are similar, but it expands on it to such a great degree. Gone is the Defender-style wraparound gameplay, replaced by this labyrinth exploration and a full-on RPG system, which really makes this game a high recommend in my personal opinion. But rather than just explain it, let's dive into the gameplay itself and experience it. So here we are at the main menu of ASTRO AQUA Kitty. So there aren't a whole lot of options here, so we're just going to dive right into Start Game. And here we're taken to our save slots. There are 5 slots total, and this will be important as you would probably want to experience this game through multiple different playthroughs. Once you start a file, we're given the option to select a pilot. There are 4 pilots we can choose between: the Heavy, the Scout, Chaos, and the Fighter, and they all have different abilities and different stats. So we're going to take the Heavy just for the higher armor. Then you select your Engineer, and these will ultimately determine your additional stats. So you can focus on repair, defense, gadgets, or energy. In this case, we'll go on full-on defense. And then you select your difficulty. You can go from relaxed, which is of course the easy, all the way up to expert. Just for the sake of today's video, we'll go with relaxed. And then there's one more difficulty setting: normal or permadeath. So normal, you'll restart at the last point you saved. Permadeath, 1 life, that's it. Once you're done, that's everything you've got. And you could just randomize the crew if you wanted to just do or just take things at sheer chance. Once you're ready, we're dropped into this little briefing screen, which kind of explains a little bit of what's going on. So there's these asteroids which have a high concentration of water within them, and so the Aqua Kitties have now taken to space. In Aqua Kitty, you were part of this crew that was defending these milk mines, as the Earth had run out of milk, but there was still milk to be mined from the surface of the ocean. It was kind of a weird premise, but kind of cute at the same time. You would so you were saving all the cats of the world by mining milk from the ocean floor. So the Aqua Kitties have taken to space and are exploring these water-filled asteroids now. So this first part here is always the same. You'll have those rocks you can destroy to gain some gems, and then that treasure chest, which will ultimately give you your first upgrade weapon, and that's the plasma cannon. So here you can see we actually have quite a bit of information here in this inventory screen. We've got the item menu, or rather the item info that we're currently looking at, as well as all of our stats. So sub-stats is actually kind of a weird way to look at it, is it's not necessarily it's not like a sub-stat, but we're piloting a sub, so that's why it's sub-stats. Anyway, what they want us to do here in the tutorial is equip the weapon we just picked up, the plasma cannon. And the plasma cannon is actually very useful. As it says here, heavy shot but slow. There's some more stats here that I'll explain in a bit. We also have a skill screen. Depending on which pilot you selected and which engineer, you have 10 possible skills that you can unlock and equip depending on the way that or you want to build your loadout. And there's also a map for our exploration. They also want us to open this door here. It's possible to turn off the prompts if you don't like having that trigger prompt on there for the various switches and the the resupply pods here, but for me personally, I found it was useful to leave them on, as it was like, it helps me locate these pods in particular, although your minimap does a good job of highlighting that as well. Once we're over a pod, we can go once again into our inventory screen, but in addition to being able to look at our inventory, we can actually purchase new weapons and new devices as well. We're not going to get anything here because this selection doesn't have anything I want, but that is something that's really neat. In addition, we can also save at these supply stations, and that will also refill our life and our energy, which I'll explain here in just a moment. So I'm kind of like glossing over the story, but basically we are being like tasked with exploring these asteroids. And in the case of this one, there's a rockfall that we need to explore. So moving through the kitty base, we move here onto the outside. There's this cat that says his batteries were stolen and like he needs them to restore power for those doors. So now we finally get to the point where we've got some shooting going on. There's these enemy crabs and sea fish, which you might have like recognized if you have played Aqua Kitty. And as we defeat these enemies, here's where the RPG element starts to come into play. So two things. First, we have two weapons. Our primary, plasma gun and the plasma cannon. As we defeat enemies, well, for one thing, they might potentially leave one of two possible power-ups. The green cross will refill our health. The blue lightning bolt will refill our energy. So if we're using low energy usage weapon like the plasma gun, that's not that big of a concern. However, so in order to get past this, apparently we need two pilots to operate this rock drill. However, as I was mentioning, if we're using our heavier weapon here, the plasma cannon, it actually will start to eat through energy quite quickly, and getting an energy refill can potentially save you the time of having to wait for your energy to refill, which it will do on its own, as your life will also. Your life will regenerate, and you can get a lot of items and stash like stats to take care of that. So in addition to potentially leaving behind power-ups, enemies can leave behind gems and sometimes even new equipment, and that's where the real meat of the game comes into play. So the equipment we can pick up usually has a couple different elements. So I've collected the two batteries that cat was looking for. Once we drop them off with him, we'll be able to continue on our way. For safety's sake, because remember, this is an RPG, save and save often. The other thing with our movement is we do have the ability to change which direction our sub is facing. Having dropped those batteries off, doors are open and we can now explore the areas above and below in this map. So as we defeat these enemies, gaining experience will ultimately level up. So the green bar on the top left represents our life, our health. The blue bar represents our energy, and the purple bar represents our experience. So the more enemies we defeat, the more experience we get. The more experience we get, then we'll get the chance to level up. Leveling up does a couple different things for us. First and foremost, it will refill your energy and your health. So if you happen to be in a dire spot, if you're close to a level up, it might be worth just pushing on, defeating a few enemies, and getting those final experience points to ultimately level up. In addition, once it's leveled up, we can return to one of the supply depots and use that to upgrade ourselves by spending a couple coins and also unlocking skills with that we've gained with the skill points we gain from leveling up. So really, this game's got a lot of stuff going on. And leveling up early in a stage will really help you get through a particular stage. However, there is an interesting twist to that. So the game itself has kind of a real quick, back to movement. So you move faster in the direction your sub is facing. If you happen to be turned a certain direction, if you're going in reverse, you won't go as fast. Just something to keep in mind. So one thing that the game does have is it's just basically like a level cap. As you level up, enemies that were worth a lot of experience before will be worth less. So really, the best way to look at it is ultimately you'll hit a point where your levels or defeating enemies won't be as effective, and you won't be able to level up past a certain point. So it's best at that point to look at moving on to the next stage. So here, destroying that enemy, we unlocked this piece of equipment, which, going to our inventory, is this battery. It'll increase our maximum energy. But if you look down in the icon in our cargo section, it has a 3. That means we have to be bare minimum level 3 to equip that battery. So right now, it does us no good. And we have a limited amount of cargo space. So in this case, we probably aren't going to use this battery right now. It might be good later, but for the moment, I'm just going to hold the X button and we'll recycle it for 10 gems. It's not worth a whole lot, but it's best to get some refund on an item rather than like no benefit at all. So opening this crate, we have this Photon Orb, another weapon, but it also happened to be a level 2 weapon, so it'll be just a second before we can use it. So here, if we move around on this side of the stage, it makes some references to Aqua Kitty 1. We hope to strike milk, but so far the pumps are just bringing up pale sludge. Oh well, it was worth a try. So we're not mining milk this time. The kitties are actually just going after gems and ores, minerals, that sort of thing. I spy a lone pilot. We hit strange bedrock we can't drill through, so we're taking an extended tea break. Do you need help with something? We do. Hop in. We'll explain on the way. So we now have our 2 pilots. We need to use the drill. Before I move on, let's just take a quick second to take out a few more of these enemies and level ourselves up. So you can see in your inventory screen, you can see exactly how much experience you need to level up. We need 500 experience points to hit level 2. We're at 485. So if I take out 3 more of these enemies, 1, 2, 3, level up. So it says here, the tutorial tells us that it doesn't automatically make us stronger. We have to go to one of the supply beacons to ultimately level up. So here at the supply beacon, we can spend gems to upgrade the ship. You'll see ship grades and the panel at the bottom right. If you have enough gems, you can upgrade your health, armor, and energy. And then also the skills, as I was mentioning here, you can unlock the skills and then equip them. Let's take a quick look. Energy blades. So there's 2 types of skills. There's the passive skills, which have the wavy line next to them. It'll say it in the skill info up there as well. Those ones will always be active if you have them equipped. The active ones will have a cooldown and will last for a certain period of time. So depending on what we're looking for, it could be really effective or maybe not so much. Given what's here, let's try the energy blades. That sounds like it could be awesome. So once you've unlocked the skill, you don't have it equipped yet. You have to remember to equip it first, and then you're good to go. Oh, I just completely almost forgot about something. So in addition to, we can use the Photon Orb. Okay, so in addition to the skills, we can also upgrade our ship over here. We can upgrade our health, our armor, and our energy. But to do so for each of them, it does cost gems. So let's upgrade the health of the ship, the energy of the ship, and we do not. I was hoping to have enough left over to buy this proton rifle, but instead we will try using this Proton Orb. So in order to equip a weapon, you actually have to de-equip your current weapon that you want to replace it with, and then equip the new weapon. So this is the Proton Orb that we can fire now. Ooh, I like that. The range isn't great, but it just feels like it would have some pretty good damage. Maybe I'm just fooling myself, but it seems effective. Alright, so we dropped the 2 drill pilots off in the ship, and it says that the ship doesn't have a battery, so we need to provide energy from the sub itself to power the drill. We bust through that rock, and we're now in the second half of this stage. So at this point, there are a couple things we could do. We could just press on and find ourselves fighting the boss, or we can take a little bit more time to level up. At this point, there's like optional quests, like helping this kitty with his walker, and doing so will net you benefits, usually like additional gems, that sort of thing. So there's actually some really good benefit to doing so. Ooh, there's this dock here. So each of the docks in the different stage will have different like options for what you can purchase. I haven't tried the Helix gun before, so let's buy that. Then we'll like unequip the Proton Orb, go with the Helix gun, and if we had enough, we could buy a device as well. So at this point, we can continue to explore around, as well as defeat enemies and upgrade our. This one could be good. Its energy usage doesn't seem too high, and it does deal a good amount of damage. Hopefully. I just want what's in this crate here, and then we can move on. So in this section, ooh, a repair droid. That's perfect. So we can equip that repair droid into one of our 4 auxiliary devices spots, since we're a high enough level to use it. As you can see here, it gives us faster health regen. It explains everything that's there. In addition, each item will have like its own individual stats. So this one gives us extra battery, extra crit, and some extra armor piercing. So it's actually a really good get. But rather than spend like time with the rest of the like submissions that this stage has, we'll move on, and maybe you can get just a little bit of idea of what's going on with the game itself. So things do get a little bit dicey going through this path. We have to be careful that we don't get overwhelmed by the enemies. This is, if you're not careful, it is possible to start taking damage really quickly. So we'll just blast our way through these rocks. This is one area where a faster weapon like the plasma gun can get us through much quicker. If we wanted to, we could take the time to further level the ship up, but rather than worry too much about that, we'll just continue to move forward, make a safety save just in case, and following this path, we'll find ourselves at our first stage boss, which is this orb that happens to be on this like drill core. Maybe the Helix is not the way I want to go for this one. So I'm having a difficult time hitting it with that. Let's swap gears and try the Proton Orb. That works actually pretty effectively. So this fight can be broken down into a couple different modes. So once you destroy the core initially, the core will move around the ship, and it's our job to like track it down. However, as we destroy it, as we move through this stage, one thing that does happen is there will be enemy crabs that spawn both above and below, creating additional dangers for us to deal with. So every once in a while, it's not a bad idea to move in there and oops, I took quite a bit of damage there. It might not be a bad idea every once in a while for us to clear out the enemies that are targeting us. So unfortunately, once we're out of energy, we have to wait for our energy to rebuild, but we can use the plasma gun to deal basically chip damage to this boss. So that could be an advantage to taking both like an engineer and equipment that can increase your energy regen. That way you don't have to wait quite as long to use your heavier weapons, potentially shortening these fights up quite drastically, actually. I was hoping that would come out on the other side. But as you can see, though, we are getting health regen even though we are taking damage. The energy is like regenning, and the boss like health is, well, dropping slowly but surely. I'm getting a little too reckless here at the end trying to finish this fight. So, anyway, that's basically Aqua Kitty, or Astro Aqua Kitty, served up for your enjoyment. So far I've actually had a lot of fun with this title, and I'm really looking forward to completing the whole story, and maybe like doing additional playthroughs, experimenting with other pilot and engineer combinations, and just seeing what I can get. As far as the plus and minus flavors that I feel the game has, minus flavors, so it does lose some of the cute element that I felt Aqua Kitty had. So that saddens me a little. That doesn't mean it's not a good game, it's just more of a personal feeling. So there is an issue with random loot in my mind. So there are some runs I've had where I've been doing relatively well, but end up taking too much damage, losing a life, and because I hadn't saved in a while, I lost quite a bit of really good loot I'd picked up, weapons that I was interested and excited to use, but because of the way the system works, they were just, well, gone. And then it is, since the, so this is the Energy Blade skill that we unlocked that we actually hadn't used. It is possible, if you're not careful with your navigation, to get lost and actually kind of have a difficult time sometimes finding some of the objectives in like these maps. So as I move through this one, you can kind of see the first stage was relatively like simple, but as you progress through the game, the gameplay gets a little bit more, or rather the stages get more involved. You've got more steps and quests you need to complete before you can move on to like later stages of the game. There are more enemies that we'll encounter. There's these like swarm weapon that deals like damage to multiple, can be really good. There's these mine layers, so really like there's a lot of interesting here as far as the variety. And the biggest plus flavor though is I feel that this game is a really excellent RPG fusion with shoot 'em ups. That's not a combination you see very often, and a lot of times when you do see it, it might not be done that well. And I feel that Tiki Pod did a really excellent job combining shoot 'em up and RPG elements. And so that's something that, as a big fan of RPGs in addition to a big fan of shoot 'em ups, I really appreciate. Target Analyzer is wonderful, but unfortunately it's level 5, and being level 2, it's going to be a long time before we can use that particular power-up. Anyway, there is Astro Aqua Kitty served up for your enjoyment. This one comes highly recommended from me. I definitely encourage you to check it out, and also if you haven't played the original Aqua Kitty, I think that one's also worth giving a try as well. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.